From above, southern Dorchester County on Maryland's eastern shore appears as a tangled web of serpentine waterways, braiding their way through the state's largest expanse of tidal wetlands. On a windy February morning, it's hard to imagine anyone venturing out into this maze of black water and marsh grass. But for Dorchester native Justin Aaron, February is prime season for trapping muskrats.
We're in Wallace Creek in Dorchester County. We're going to go out in the marsh and check some traps. I've been trapping muskrats about 30 years. Through my mom's side of the family, they were big trappers. They taught me when I was a kid how to trap.
Just as their parents and grandparents taught them, in a trapping lineage that goes back generations.
They're mostly active like late in the afternoon through the night. Sunset mostly is when they come out.
Which means that in order to catch them, Justin has to carefully read the marsh for signs of muskrat activity and set his traps by active leads, small tunnels that show signs of recent use.
I found a nice hole on this side. I can see where the muskrat has been here because there's a lot of like roots and marsh and sticks and stuff where he's been chewing. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna set my trap outside here, put it in the lead like this. Hopefully tomorrow when we come back, we'll have a muskrat in that trap.
A semi-aquatic rodent known for the musky odor it uses to mark its territory, the muskrat has long been an important source of both food and fur. Trapped by Native Americans, early European settlers, even a young Harriet Tubman. Some Native American legends even paint the muskrat as a mythical figure, credited with creating dry land in a time long ago when the world was entirely underwater. As it turns out, that's something these nocturnal marsh dwellers are pretty good at. Just ask Department of Natural Resources biologist Donald Webster.
The muskrats have built their huts out of the local vegetation here, and they build it above the marsh level to stay dry during periods of high tides.
Like Justin, Donald was born and raised in this area and has been trapping muskrats since his teenage years.
It's part of our local culture. It's something I think people do like they would crabbing or fishing or hunting.
But today, he's just looking and showing off one of the county's best examples of prime muskrat habitat, Blackwater National Wildlife Refuge.
I'd say the population of Blackwater ranges from 1 muskrat per acre to maybe 5 per acre. They are relatively numerous, although they're relatively unseen.
Especially in winter, when they spend most of their time hidden away inside tunnels and huts, venturing out only for food. But when they do leave their dens, these little guys are expert swimmers.
Their tails are tapered 10 to 11 inches long, which steers them through the water while their webbed feet propels them. They're adaptive to living in the water, much more so than most anything else that we have here on the shore.
Like foxes, river otters, and raccoons, muskrats are considered a fur-bearer species, meaning they've traditionally been trapped for their fur. In fact, here in Dorchester County, muskrat pelts were once an important economic resource. Throughout much of the 20th century, dozens of trappers worked the local marshes, selling dried pelts to fur buyers in Cambridge and Vienna. But in recent decades, with fur falling out of favor, trapping has become a lot less lucrative.
In 1978, you could catch 1 muskrat and fill your car up with gas. Now you catch 1 muskrat and you can buy 1 gallon of gas.
And the work? It isn't for the faint of heart.
Oh, it's a nasty job. I mean, you get mud all over you. You're sinking halfway with your waders and mud.
But for Justin, who spends most of his year fishing, working the marshes is more about tradition than money.
I wouldn't change it for nothing in the world. I like it around here.
The official trapping season for muskrat runs from January 1st through March 15th, date set by DNR's Fur Bearer Management Program.
The purpose of the fur bearer program is managing the population. Muskrats themselves, they're able to populate areas very quickly because they can have 3 to 4 litters a year. So the harvest of muskrats has very little impact on the population overall.
The muskrat, when it hits the trigger here, the trigger will activate.
Most of what Justin traps will go to fill private orders for muskrat meat. Slow cooked, it's a local delicacy.
The old timers love it. I mean, they love it. They can't get enough of it when they eat it.
But a few of these are practice rats for his mom, two-time women's world champion muskrat skinner, Rhonda Aaron. This afternoon, she's getting ready for the 2020 championship, which will be held tomorrow night at the National Outdoor Show, the county's annual celebration of muskrat history and heritage. To outsiders, it might seem graphic, but Rhonda says it's a tradition born out of necessity.
My grandfather was a farmer, but in the wintertime, they needed something to supplement the income and for food. So they farmed in the summertime and they trapped from like January to the end of March. My uncles and my grandfather would bring sackfuls of muskrat, bring them into the farmhouse and dump them on the linoleum floor where the wood stove was at, and then everybody would start to skin.
Men and women, adults and children, the whole family together, getting both meat and hides ready for sale. And back in 1938, a few local families decided to turn that cold weather chore into a friendly competition.
The trappers would say, or the farmers would say, my son can skin faster than your son can skin.
Rhonda's family has been involved since the beginning.
What I have in front of me is a lot of photos, old photos, and I've got a picture here of my grandfather who skinned in the very first outdoor shows. This photo was in 1938. This is a picture of my mother, Nellie. It's his family affair. Edith Arthur and Nellie Mills upheld the family skinning honors at the 3rd Annual National Outdoor Muskrat Skinning Contest at the Cambridge Armory.
Today, what began as a humble winter picnic has grown into an event that attracts thousands of people each year, with hundreds of vendors and events ranging from duck and goose calling competitions to a wild game cook-off. In case you're wondering what makes it national, each year the show welcomes a contingent of guests from the Fur and Wildlife Festival in Cameron Parish, Louisiana, which has its own muskrat heritage. It also prompts a visit from New Jersey fur buyers Zander Fur.
People can stop by, kind of see what it's about, and get an idea of what they do with the muskrats. Basically just grading the muskrats for size, quality.
And getting them ready for sale overseas.
The end user has definitely changed. It was Europe for a long time. Now the whole market is basically dominated by China.
Right now, he's grading a pile of pelts dropped off by trapper Byron Cameron.
Well, I've been pretty well trapping all my life. Probably caught my first muskrat when I was 5 years old, and I'm 74 now. When the price was high in the 70s and 80s, that was my job. I caught 2,000 muskrats a year, and now it's just more or less a hobby.
And the occasional muskrat dinner is an added bonus.
I ran a 5K, and I beat a lot of people, a lot of young ones. That's what they asked me what my secret was. I said, I eat a lot of muskrat. It's a health food.
What he doesn't eat himself, Cameron sells to Roger Webster of E.G. Webster & Sons in Cambridge. You can find it in the back, right next to the hot dogs.
People come pick them up, 8, 10, 15 at a time.
And it's no wonder the demand is so high.
There's only a couple places in town that even has them. It's nothing like it used to be, not at all.
But believe it or not, there was a time when even city slickers enjoyed the occasional plate of muskrat. During the early to mid-1900s, when the fur trade was at its peak, this Eastern Shore delicacy experienced a culinary heyday, making its way onto restaurant menus as far away as Baltimore and Philadelphia. though it often went by a different name: mock terrapin, water squirrel, or perhaps its most popular synonym.
Another more pleasant word is marsh rabbits. Call them that and they sound a lot more tasty.
But back at the outdoor show, they don't mince words. And at $1 a sample, even the pickiest eater can afford to give muskrat a try. And no, it doesn't taste like chicken.
It kind of tastes like squirrel. We eat a lot of squirrel in Louisiana.
I think I would describe it, for me, the way it's marinated, like squirrel. And whoever prepared this did a really good job because it's very tender and it tastes really good.
Come Saturday evening, it's time for the main event. There's the presentation of Miss Outdoors, winner of the show's annual pageant, a rowdy bead toss to celebrate the guests from Louisiana, and finally the trap setting and skinning competitions. The crowds may be a bit bigger than they were back in 1938, but one thing hasn't changed.
It still is a family affair, definitely. My brother skins and I skin, my nephew skins, my son skins and does trap setting. And it's so special because Mom is in the audience yelling for us to win, and she's 92.
These competitions are all about speed, with separate classes for youth, beginners, even a head-to-head between Miss Outdoors and the visiting Miss Cameron Parrish.
That was awesome.
But the loudest cheers are reserved for the fastest skinners of them all, the contenders for the men's and women's World Championships. Rhonda won back in 2016, but she's facing stiff competition. Once all of the contestants are in place, the announcer gives the countdown.
Ready, set, go.
And they're off.
When I'm skinning, I don't hear anything. You can't skin against the other competitors. You have to skin against yourself.
In just a few minutes, it's over. And while Rhonda didn't nab the gold this year, her family isn't going home empty-handed. The 2020 World Muskrat Skinning Champions are her nephew Dusty and his wife Dakota. And in the end, it's about more than just bragging rights.
In our area, it's more about tradition. Our families have always done it. They had strong beliefs in the trapping, and that at the end of the season they would make a little money and they would feed a few people. We feel that way also. We try to carry that tradition on and hope that we're doing a good job of it.